Welcome back to AsArt. My name is Nick, and I have Britt here with me, cha.cha.cherry on Instagram. This is part 2 of the comment videos. There was a part 1. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. But we're going through all the comments. Now we're going through even more comments on the other videos that are popping up now because of the final and all that other stuff. We're going to do our best to answer them. By the way, we do a lot of deep dives for His Dark Materials, episode reviews. We have all that here, so go watch all the other videos. We're going to be doing more deep dives coming up in January. It's going to be so much fun. And if you're into His Dark Materials, we got a cool Gallivespian shirt with the dragonfly. About to hop on it to fight an adventure or something like that. But go to asart.space to go get it. And now we're jumping into the comments.
Okay, here we go. Hi, May. All I remember from the books is that I loved that Lyra was sort of a bad kid, and it had to be badass, and it had badass polar bears. I remember it being really disappointed when the Golden Compass movie came out. I have been loving this series, though. I don't remember enough of the books to hold it to the standard. I've been excited for every episode of this past season. It gave me all the feelings. The plot line, and I thought was the weakest, was the scientist, Mary, and the serpent. Oh, I forgot. All the episodes are available online because they released in the UK earlier than the US. But I won't spoil anything. I thought that the Land of the Dead was amazing in the show, but now I want to reread the story after I've seen the whole series. I'm very satisfied. 8 out of 10 for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, it has to be fun going back to, especially after it's been a while, because like you see certain things and it probably reignites your memory of the different things and story plots and stuff like that. And the Dr. Mary Malone story was very much reduced. You know what I mean? It very much felt like it was put on the back end compared to the books, because in the book, the last book, the third book of the trilogy, half of the book's basically Mary Malone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's her like
Bummer.
just learning how the mulefa live and all this stuff like that. They would always cut back to her, so it was just kind of put to the side.
Aw. Noah Klein. The roads were solidified lava rivers. Just wanted to mention it since people seem to forget. Also, the mulefa were my favorite part of the book.
That's right. That's right. Mary Malone in the book, you're 100% right. When she saw the roads and stuff, she noticed it was like lava flows. And because the mulefa ride on it, it's almost like it was like part of the development. Thank you so much for catching that in the mulefa video. I definitely slipped up on that one again.
Lee Road. I have not read any of the books, but I have purchased the first volume, The Book of Dust. It is on my to-read list. I pretty much enjoyed the television series and have been moved by many scenes. However, after your blunt comparison of the series to the book, you now have me side-eyeing the television show. If so much of the story is being sacrificed for budgetary and other concerns, that is a bummer. I will move the book up on my reading list. Though whatever flaws the television show may have, the acting, actors, and special effects are not a part of them. The casting is superb and the acting is emotionally compelling. Thanks for making sense of all the things I did not readily understand.
No, you're so welcome. We're here for that. You're really gonna enjoy the books and all the differences and the comparisons and stuff like that. You're really gonna enjoy the books. It's just so rich with backstory and information. It's amazing. I'm kind of jealous you're reading it for the first time.
I think that's cool. Like when you take a break, because I was thinking about when I have to go, like I have to go back and reread Lord of the Rings. But when I was younger, I was always really jealous of people who were introduced to Middle Earth for the first time, because it's like, wow, you get to go through that entire experience. So I think putting a big gap in your life and then rereading something, that it could feel more of a reintroduction to a world. Nico BG, the mulefa were my absolute favorite part of the book, and they ruined all the magic of it in this series.
Oh, yep. I understand. Because it's just so unique and different when it comes to the book. Yeah. Totally understand.
Silver 381 Kelly, what do you mean about polar bears and dust? Doesn't dust fall on them?
Oh, so polar bears are slightly different than the other beings, so they don't go to the land of the dead. That's what I was meaning by the dust. And because like when um humans die or their demons or whatever, they turn to dust. It doesn't happen with polar bears. That was like my remark. I was when I was talking to Kyle. It's like,
Is that an animal thing or just a polar bear thing?
I think it's just a polar bear thing.
Because they
Well,
drink
animals.
Coca-Cola?
So it's so interesting too because you have different types of animals in Will's and in Lyra's world too. Like you have a fox who can't quite speak English, so it jabbers words together when it hears it. So like technically, I think they're known for lying in Lyra's world, but it'll be like polar bear here, polar bear there. I don't know. Polar bear said this. Scoresby dead. Blah blah blah. Like he'll like sprout out random words without meaning and context because they're not as smart as polar bears. But yeah,
That's adorable.
I think that actually happens at the beginning of book 3. Yeah, because I think the fox overhears Seraphina Pecula and Yorick conversation about Lee Scoresby, and yeah, it's just like a little moment. It's like so cool too. Stuff like that in the books is just like builds the world around it too.
Yeah. Everybody loves a fox. Row 231 or 213.
Mhm.
I'm sad they kind of glossed over Mary's adventures with the mulefa in the show, but understand why it probably wasn't possible with the budget that they had.
Yeah, totally understand. Yep, that's what I think too. It's just a budget story thing. They just want to save money, or they just didn't have the money.
Everything always comes down to money. Minus in this book, there really isn't too much greed when you think about Lord of the Rings or like the idea of wealth and power. Like I don't feel like there's a lot of like wealth in this world.
But there's power, I think,
There
with
is
the authority.
power.
When
Yeah.
the authority with knowledge and control, I guess.
It's always about control. James Bopes. These videos have been so good. Thanks for breaking it down. His dark materials can be a bit complex, dense, and sometimes confusing. Love these videos.
You are so welcome. We're gonna keep them coming for sure. And yes, that's what makes it so great. I think is the complexity and like the way history can be told differently through different lenses and stuff like that too. It's like flipping your knowledge upside down.
What I love about all these stories and media in general is how you get to build a community now about it, and how people can just share their, the joy that they get from a story and what they get out of it. I think it's kind of rad. Shirley Lee, thank you so much for these explanations. I have one question for the ending. Why that Will's dad can live in another world for so long, but Will can't, and have to be separated from Lyra.
Yeah. So it goes back to, so Will's dad did live in another world for like 10 years and he got sick. So originally in the book, he kind of got lost in his world in the Arctic and he kind of went through a window during a storm without even knowing he went through a window. And because it was like a blizzard and storm, he never was able to find his way back through the window. So he was stuck in Lyra's world. And that's when he noticed he has a demon. It was a bird in that world, and then he became a shaman. But he realized after 10 years, he was getting sick and his body was like dying. So he knew he didn't have much longer to live, and that's when the information comes around. So technically, Will could have stayed with Lyra, but he would have got sick in 10 years and died. It just because you were like created in a different world or universe, your body doesn't resonate with that world.
Question. So theoretically, if he spent like 8 years in another world, does he go home? Can he repair himself and heal and then come back into a different world?
Yes.
So there was that option.
That would have been possible, but because only one window could be left open, they left it open for the land of the dead.
Right. Well, that could have worked before everything fell apart. Right? Technically?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Fernandez T. I enjoy the show so much more after y'all broke it down.
Thank you.
Half asleep due to the schedule when I get to watch the shows often, and you guys going through it is much appreciated. Keep going.
We will. Thank you so much. Yes.
HHG Gref. Have you done a deep dive on the lithiometer symbols and meaning?
No, we have not, but that's something I'm definitely going to run by Kyle because I think that would be a great deep dive. Thank you so much.
Love
Look
that.
for that video. Subscribe. That video is probably coming soon.
I could see Kyle really digging in that. Can he read the lithiometer?
Probably he can do anything.
Okay. Summer flower. Hi, I haven't read the books yet, but I really love the way they did The Land of the Dead. Visually, it made a lot of
Mm,
sense, particularly the storytelling and the change in light. There was a few things that didn't make a lot of sense, like the fall into the abyss, Roger and
mm,
Lee leaving the Land of the Dead, disappearing into a poof of dust,
mm-hmm.
was really beautiful, and rejoining the universe. I also love the scenes where Mary and Mulefa and the Mulefa. It was quite neat how they showed her learning
Mm.
their language and putting captions on words that she was learning or understanding the moment in time. And eventually, you would get more of them until she was comfortable enough to speak to them in their own language.
Yeah, no, that was really cool. That's basically like in the book what happens. She learns how to speak their language, and the Mulefa like learn how to speak the English language, where it's kind of broken up both ways, where she does signals with her hands to represent the trunk movements of the Mulefa, and yeah, there are the few things like definitely falling into the abyss. We talked about that a lot in the last video about how basically by falling in, you're done. You're never coming back as into the land of the dead. You're never going to be merged with matter in the universe ever again. You're just sucked out of the you basically fall through like a black hole of oblivion and you're stuck there forever kind of thing. So
It's like when
that
Jon
was
Snow died.
pretty
He's like,
intense.
it
And
was
then
just black.
yeah. Wait, when did John
When
Snow
before he
die?
came back to life and he talks
Oh,
about
oh,
death.
oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Remember,
Let's
and
think
he was
about the
like,
ending.
it's
Yeah,
just black,
there's nothing
empty,
there. Yeah. Hmm.
nothing.
That's what
That's
everyone says
interesting.
in Game of Thrones too. Everyone that gets brought back, everyone that gets brought back, there's nothing on the other side, which I think is very interesting. I dang it, Game of Thrones, man. I wish they finished off the season better. Okay, and then the other thing too we can talk about is Roger and Lee Scoresby kind of just disappearing. So that's what happens in the book too. Once they leave the land of the dead, they just become one with matter and the universe.
Hmm.
Super beautiful ending compared to being in that drabble land of the dead.
I
By the way, we
really,
did do a land of the dead breakdown too. If you want more in depth breakdown on that.
I really like the way American Gods does Afterlife.
Hmm.
Michael, I am not a book reader yet, and have not found any problems following the story and the beats. I plan on reading them after I finish my current book.
Hmm.
But this show is good. We all know that adaptations can't and shouldn't be one to one,
Hmm.
which presents its own problems. Not having read the books yet, the show works really well as a cohesive and engaging story.
Cool. Yeah, definitely if you don't know the book material, even probably for you, it's not as frustrating for you, for example, Brittany. Like you don't miss out on like the little moments. I mean, obviously there's some things that may feel jarring to you and you have a lot of questions, obviously, because like they don't go into the details and stuff, but overall it's probably pretty understandable the basic story.
Well, I think anything that has, oh gosh, I forget the technical terminology. I'm sure Kyle does, but I know that there's a ranking of types of magics in different stories and
Mm,
different worlds, and this one has one of the higher rankings of magic that makes sense.
mm,
Um, I forget the real terms of it, but I know that like this one does make more uh logical sense of their magic, so it's not that
mm,
hard to follow in a sense, where something like Harry Potter's like rated really low on like how
mm,
their magic world really works. I'll
mm.
find something on it and send it to you. It's super fascinating.
It makes sense though, because Harry Potter, it's kind of grounded, but it doesn't like back itself up all the time, kind of
Yeah,
thing. But
so there's a lot of empty space, but this one,
where
from what I
it's
know, has a higher rating.
it's just simple, right? Like you can cut through other worlds, and it's like what dust is basically, and then the idea is you can't live long. It's just like basic rules. It's not too
Hmm.
complicated. Yeah.
Okay, Terry Don, loving it.
Whoop,
Didn't
whoop.
even know there were books until now.
Hey,
Right
welcome.
on.
Highly recommend reading them.
Yeah, Terry.
Yeah, crazy sometimes. Like when you find out about a show and you're like, oh, there's books.
Or a game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure a lot of people didn't. A lot of people knew about Arcane, but a lot of people didn't know about. You know, I mean, you could do that though if there's a story plot. Tom Boghan. Mulefa reminds me of ancient tapers, which also ancient of llamas, emus, elephants, and camels.
Yeah, you can definitely see that with the design there. It's just what Kyle pointed out too is very interesting. Why blue markings?
James Phelps. Would be dope if y'all could break down the serpent of Mary's role. It's a bit confusing.
It is a little bit confusing, but she's basically the one that opens her eye to love. Because like it's like when like the love that they share is like reversing the polar, where because their love was so strong, the dust was attracted to it, kind of, so it's kind of flipped the pool, right? Because it was being sucked out of the world, and then because the dust was so attracted to their love, it came back into the world. Yeah, it's kind of funky.
Does the serpent relate to anything in particular?
Well, knowledge, right? It's like eating of the tree, and the eating of the tree of knowledge, right?
Okay.
Once you know this, you know the truth.
Stuck with the information.
So once they know love, they're stuck with love. And then the sad part is though, with their love, right, that they can't be with each other.
That makes sense.
I hope it does.
I think snakes are cool.
Snakes are cool.
I think snakes are really cool.
It was cool.
Do you want one for your birthday?
No, but it was cool that every time you had a shot with Father Gomez, it was always like the serpent and the tree with Eve in the background.
Dumesa, does anyone like or loved Father Gomez ending? I clearly did it.
It was very, very much shortened. And also too, like they gave him so much more screen time where he shouldn't have been. He shouldn't have been there to catch Mrs. Coulter. At the beginning of the book, he goes and he's on like a full-on hunting trail. He's following Mary Malone's path through all the different worlds she goes through and stuff.
Where did he get his hunting skills? I thought he's been
His
like
tracking
in
skills.
the cemetery for Trav. Where'd you get these skills, bro? Like,
he's an army man.
Did he live in a temple
so,
forever?
So technically
was he an army man?
Well, he was, and he was. There were certain people in their beliefs where they would do penance, right? Where they would repent so much, so if they did kill someone, they were already repented for their actions. So he would do penance, which is beating himself for sins that he would commit in the future. So he had enough penance built up where he would be okay killing someone, so his soul would still be clean.
That's so effed up in many ways.
That's in the book for sure. I think you see it a little bit in the show, like they mention it a little bit, but yeah, it's definitely a book thing.
That theory is wild. Kimichi, first time viewer. I really enjoy this, especially as I haven't read the books for a long time and binge watched the series, and so probably missed a lot. It will be interesting to see what you think as the series goes on. It seems like Will's womb is no longer an issue. There's no time for it at this point. Also very frustrated at the little people as far as compared to the books.
The Gallivespians.
It felt like it was just a filler to have Mary visit that world. They should have sent her direct to the started building. Wait, little people?
It's basically
like my brain's going. I'm sorry.
The little people are the
kids?
the Gallivespians, the guys with the little wings.
Oh,
our dragonfly, by the way, if you want to go get a shirt, the Gallivespian shirt's here, AsArt.space.
They were little afraid of the little people, so compared to the books, and I felt like it was just a filler to have Mary visit that world. They should have had her direct and started building up to that point.
Yeah.
IMO, cheers! Sorry,
yeah.
that made my brain
spin. Definitely, yes. You jumped in on episode 1 and 2 with this, and I did see a lot of your other comments Thank you so much for commenting. But yeah, you have a ride in front of you for sure. It may be a little rocky and a little bumpy.
M. Antonio Gallian. I love the books. Read them. I read them back when I was just a teenager. I'm so glad I found you, since no one in the Spanish community, my first language, is interested in covering this series. I just remembered I was so scared and worried for Lyra when reading the third book. Father Gomez is a ruthless villain, and he was about to shoot her and kill her after all.
Yeah.
He caused a real disaster in the mulefa world. God, I swear I couldn't put the book down in that part. The danger felt so real.
Yeah.
LOL. I hope this distressful moment is truthfully trespassed from book to TV.
Yeah.
I even remember my stomach aching when I finished that chapter.
Yeah, it's much more intense for sure than in the show. And it's really cool too, because Balthamos comes in, that whole sequence, and yes, and I think that's just the story of the show. You know what I mean? Like, there's only so much you can portray with acting and stuff, where, you know, when you set up the scene with writing, there's something about a book, right? When you set up a world and a scene or a moment, you kind of create your own thought processes and stuff around it, where it's just like you're creating even more danger in your head than maybe it's not gonna be. But yeah, it's very intense in the book, and I definitely understand you and them missing out on that part for sure. Yeah, and that's gonna be all the end for the comments here. That was awesome. That's part 2. If you haven't gone back and watched part 1, I highly recommend going back watching part 1. We'll probably do another one too later on, because we're going to be doing more breakdown videos, which will probably lead to more comments and questions. Thank you guys so much for posting them here, taking the time to post it. We really like just answering comments and discussing the different theories and options here. Thank you, cha.cha.cherry, for reading them for us. It's nice, so I'm not just talking the whole time too, because then it's just my annoying voice going on for 30 minutes, and it's nice to have a good breakup.
I don't think you have an annoying voice.
That's one person. Comment down below if you think my voice is annoying. No, actually, please don't. No, please don't, or I will become like the golden monkey.
No! I highly doubt that.
Thank you guys so much. Go to cha.cha.cherry on Instagram. Go check out. She's an awesome photographer. If you're a big fan,
and I like animals,
and she likes animals, and if you're a big fan of his dark materials, go check out our Gallivespian shirts designed by our local artist Kyle, and you get that AsArt.space, and we'll see you on the next AsArt. Woo!